My grandson whispered, "Grandpa, don't open that gift." We were sitting in my kitchen, pretending it was a normal family dinner. There was barbecue on the counter, sweet tea on the table, and a blue gift box with a white ribbon sitting right in front of me. The card said, "For Dad, a fresh start." My daughter smiled too hard. My son watched me too closely. My daughter-in-law kept one hand on her phone, like she was waiting for something to begin. But my grandson stood behind my chair, pale as paper. I asked him softly, "Why not, buddy?" He whispered, "I saw the papers." So I opened it. Inside was not a sweater, not photos, not anything a father hopes to receive from his children. It was a nursing home form marked Memory Care. My name was already filled in. So was the transfer date. Then my son leaned back and said, "You won't even remember being mad." Welcome back to Final Act Revenge. Please take care of your health while you listen, because that form was only the first thing they tried to hide. And when my neighbor checked my pillbox, her face went white. My name is Mark Donald. I am 63 years old, and until that blue gift box landed on my kitchen table, I had never thought of myself as a man who needed permission to live in his own house. I live in Tampa, Florida, in a one-story place with a cracked driveway, a noisy ceiling fan, and a garage full of tools I still know how to use. For 34 years, I ran a small HVAC repair business. Air conditioners, vent lines, restaurant coolers. The kind of work nobody respects until the air stops moving in July and the whole room starts praying for the man with the toolbox. A Tampa attic in summer will teach any man humility faster than church. I was not rich, but I had stability. My house was almost paid off. I had a duplex across town, retirement savings, a few investments my late wife left behind, and enough sense not to buy things just because a salesman smiled. I was not rich enough to be powerful. I was just stable enough for desperate people to start doing math. My daughter Paige was 40, a real estate agent in Tampa Bay. She dressed like success, even when the market was punishing her. Rising insurance, slow closings, buyers backing out. By 2026, half the people in Florida seemed one bad bill away from panic. My son Arlo was 37. He had a home repair business that looked better on his truck magnet than it did in his books. I knew he owed suppliers. I knew he had tax trouble. He never told me straight. But fathers learn to read their children's silences. Then there was Rena, Arlo's wife. Quiet, organized, too calm when everyone else was tense. She had worked in medical billing, and she knew how to make ordinary fear sound official. Words like safety, supervision, medication, oversight. They sounded gentle when she said them. That was the danger. After my wife passed, I lived alone. I cooked simple meals. I drove myself to the hardware store. I fixed my own leaky sink. Sometimes I forgot where I put my keys, but that did not make me helpless. It made me a man with too many drawers. My neighbor, Bonnie Adler, checked on me now and then. She was a retired nurse, sharp as a tack, and twice as hard to fool. "Mark," she would say, "you are not 25, and that ladder does not care about your pride." But a few weeks before that dinner, strange things began happening. I got dizzy after meals. I fell asleep in my recliner in the middle of the afternoon. Once, I left the faucet running long enough to soak a towel. Another time, I signed the wrong line on a check and stared at it like my own hand had betrayed me. Paige noticed. "Dad, you already asked me that," she said. Arlo noticed too. "This is exactly what we're worried about." I tried to laugh it off, but alone at night, I sat at the edge of my bed and wondered whether they were right. That is the cruel part. Before you can defend your mind, you have to ask whether it is already leaving you. Rena came by one Sunday with a plastic pill organizer. "Let me make this easier," she said. "You've got too many bottles in that cabinet." I thanked her. I actually thanked her. She lined up the little boxes, wrote a schedule, and told me it was just one less thing to worry about. At the time, it felt like help. After that gift box, it felt like the first lock turning. The first time Rena offered to organize my pills, I thanked her. After that gift box, I started wondering what exactly I had thanked her for. After I opened that gift box, my kitchen did not feel like my kitchen anymore. The barbecue was still on the counter. The sweet tea was still sweating in the glasses. The ceiling fan still clicked every fourth turn, the way it had for 15 years. But everything had changed. Because there is a certain kind of silence that comes after people get caught too early. Paige reached for the papers first. Not fast, carefully, like she was afraid I might read one more line before she could soften it. "Dad," she said, "please don't look at it like that." I looked at the form in my hand. Memory care intake, my full name, my address, my date of birth, a transfer date, Friday. What way should I look at it? She swallowed. "This isn't punishment, it's care." There was that word, care, wrapped around a trap like the white ribbon around that box. Arlo leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "You've been forgetting things. You almost fell. You leave stuff running. We can't just wait until something bad happens." I stared at my son. Something bad is happening right now. Rena slid her hand over the edge of the paperwork, not taking it from me, just touching it, like she owned the explanation. "Mark, the facility only needs information to begin an evaluation. Nobody is forcing anything tonight." I turned the page. Medication management consent. Emergency transfer authorization. Durable power of attorney draft. Primary contact, Paige Donald. Alternate, contact, Arlo Donald. Care communication, Rena Donald. I looked up. If nobody is forcing anything, why is there a transfer date? Paige's face tightened. Arlo answered for her. "Because we had to reserve a spot." "A spot?" My voice sounded calm. Too calm. "You reserved a spot for me in a memory care wing before asking whether I wanted to leave my own house?" Arlo's jaw worked. Rena spoke softly. "Sometimes the safest decision has to be made before the person is ready to accept it." That sentence was colder than shouting, because it sounded reasonable. That is how control enters a home. It does not always kick the door open. Sometimes it carries a clipboard and says it knows what is best. Milo stood near the hallway, looking at the floor. My grandson's shoulders were hunched, like he wanted to disappear inside his t-shirt. I hated that he was seeing this. I hated that his warning had been the only honest thing in the room. Paige followed my eyes. "Milo, go watch TV." He did not move. Arlo snapped, "Milo!" The boy flinched. Then he walked out. Slowly. I wanted to tell him he had done nothing wrong. But I had a room full of adults trying to prove I could not understand my own life, and I knew anything I said might be turned into another note on another form. So I folded the papers and set them back in the box. "I'm not signing this." Paige closed her eyes. "Dad, no one said tonight." "Then when?" No one answered. Friday had already answered favors and then mame. The rest of the evening became theater. Paige cleared plates with shaking hands. Rena offered to review my medication routine again. Arlo kept watching me like he was waiting for me to forget what we were arguing about. I did not forget. I remembered every word. After they left, the house felt too big. The blue gift box sat on my table like a dare. I was about to throw it in the trash when I felt something in my shirt pocket. A folded piece of notebook paper. Milo must have slipped it there when he hugged me goodbye. The handwriting was small and crooked. "Grandpa, they said if you get confused again, they can make you sign after." My hand tightened around the paper. Under that line was another one. "Aunt Paige said the house has to be protected before Friday." I sat down. Not because my knees were weak, because the room had moved under me. I opened the box again. This time, I read slowly. The form said, "Family reported increased confusion after missed doses." Missed doses. I stared at those words. I had never told anyone I was missing doses. Then I walked to the cabinet and pulled down the pill organizer Rena had arranged for me. Beside it was the schedule she had taped there. Morning, lunch, evening, bedtime, nice, clean lines, careful little boxes. But the handwriting was not mine, and in 2 places, someone had marked missed. I stood in my kitchen, looking at that paper, and realized somebody had started writing the story of my decline before I even knew I was supposed to be declining. I looked at the pill schedule taped beside the cabinet, and realized the handwriting was not mine. I did not sleep much that night. I kept hearing Arlo's voice in my kitchen. "You won't even remember being mad." A man can forgive a sharp word spoken in anger, but that sentence was not anger. It was planning. The next morning, I stood at the bathroom sink and looked at myself in the mirror. 63, gray at the temples, a little heavier around the middle, tired eyes, but still me. Still the man who could rebuild a bad compressor by feel. Still the man who knew which breaker controlled the garage. Still the man who remembered every inch of the house my wife and I had paid for 1 month at a time. Then I looked at the pill organizer on the counter. 7 little rows. Morning, noon, evening, bedtime. So small, so ordinary. That was what scared me. Danger does not always arrive with a knife. Sometimes it arrives in plastic boxes with tiny lids. I took pictures first. The schedule, the markings that said missed, the labels, the little sticker that said caregiver pickup. I did not know what any of it proved, but after 34 years fixing machines, I knew one rule. Before you touch the broken part, document how you found it. Then I called Bonnie Adler. She answered like she always did. "If this is about that garbage disposal again, Mark, I am charging you in cornbread." "It's not the disposal." My voice must have told her enough. 10 minutes later, Bonnie was at my door in a cardigan, carrying a grocery bag and wearing the expression of a woman prepared to scold death itself if it stepped on her porch. I laid everything on the kitchen table: the gift box, the memory care form, the medication consent, the pill organizer, the schedule. Bonnie started with the jokes still on her face. Then they left. She did not touch the pills right away. She put on her glasses, pulled out her phone, and asked, "Do you still have the medication list you showed me last month?" I did. It was in the junk drawer, under batteries, takeout menus, and one screwdriver I had been looking for since Christmas. Bonnie compared the list to the box, slowly, carefully. The way nurses do when they already feel something wrong but refuse to say it before the facts earn the words. Finally, she looked at me. "I am not diagnosing anything at your kitchen table." That sounds like the start of bad news. It is the start of careful news. She tapped the pill organizer. "This does not match the medication list you showed me last month." My mouth went dry. Could I have done it wrong? Bonnie looked at me for a long second. "Mark, a man can misplace his keys. He does not usually rewrite his own medication schedule in somebody else's handwriting." I sat down, not fast, but enough that the chair scraped the floor. Bonnie picked up the nursing home paper and read the line I had circled in my mind all night. "Family reports increased confusion after missed doses." She frowned. "Who reported that?" "I don't know." "Did you tell Paige you were missing doses?" "No." "Arlo?" "No." "Rena." I remembered Rena standing in my kitchen, lining up the little plastic boxes, telling me it was one less thing to worry about. "No," I said. "She told me she was helping." Bonnie's face changed then, not dramatic, worse, professional. "Mark, don't take anything from this organizer until a doctor or pharmacist reviews the whole list." That made it real. I stared at the box. "I've been taking from it for weeks." "I know." Those 2 words sat between us. I heard the refrigerator hum. Outside, a lawnmower started somewhere down the block, ordinary life being rude enough to continue. Bonnie took pictures with my phone and hers. The labels, the schedule, the form, the sticker. Then she pointed to the pharmacy name on one bottle. "Call them." I did. The pharmacist was named Quincy Bell. His voice was cautious, the way professionals sound when they can smell trouble but know every word might matter later. "Mr. Donald," he said, I can confirm there were recent caregiver pickups noted on your account. Caregiver pickups? Yes, sir. I pick up my own prescriptions. That has been your usual pattern. Who picked them up? I have to be careful about what I can say over the phone, but I can tell you this pickup pattern is not normal for a man who says he manages his own medication. Bonnie closed her eyes. When she opened them, the warmth was still there, but something hard had settled under it. Ask if the account contact was changed, I asked. Quincy paused. There was an update request connected to Family Caregiver Access. It may not have been fully completed, but it is in the record. My hand tightened around the phone. Can I get copies? You can come in with identification, he said. And Mr. Donald? Yes? If there is any concern about medication safety, bring your current bottles and do not rely on a secondary organizer until reviewed. When I hung up, Bonnie did not speak right away. She just looked at that pill box like it had personally insulted every patient she had ever protected. I tried to joke. So, not just me being a forgetful old fool. She did not smile. Do not call yourself that in my kitchen. It's my kitchen. Then don't call yourself that in your kitchen either. That almost made me laugh. Almost. Then Bonnie put both hands on the table and leaned toward me. Mark, this doesn't look like aging. This looks like somebody managing the story before they manage your money. The words made the room tilt. Not because I had not suspected it, because someone else had finally said it out loud. Bonnie set the pillbox down like it might burn her fingers and said, Mark, don't call your children yet. Call a doctor who has never spoken to them. Bonnie drove me to the doctor the next morning. I did not argue. That alone should tell you how shaken I was. A man like me will argue about everything small. Which route to take. Which brand of coffee tastes burned. Whether a ladder is still safe if it only wobbles on one side. But when Bonnie took my keys from the counter and said, You are not driving until we know what is going on, I let her. The worst part was not wondering whether my children had lied. The worst part was wondering whether they were right. Maybe I was slipping. Maybe I had been covering it with pride. Maybe the faucet, the check, the dizziness, the afternoon sleep, maybe all of it added up to something I did not want to name. That thought sat beside me in Bonnie's passenger seat all the way across Tampa. The clinic was small, quiet, and nothing like the cold places my children's paperwork had described. Dr. Mara Keene did not rush into the room with a verdict. She shook my hand, looked me in the eye, and asked me to tell the story myself. Not Bonnie, not Paige, not Arlo. Me. You do not realize how much dignity lives inside that simple thing until people start speaking around you like you are furniture. Dr. Keene asked about my routines, what I ate, how I slept, when the dizziness came, what medications I took, who helped me with them. I answered slowly, but I answered. She did not fill the silence for me. She let me think. That mattered. When she asked the date, I knew it. When she asked where I lived, I gave the address, plus complained about the neighbor's sprinkler hitting my mailbox every Tuesday. Bonnie muttered, That part is true. Dr. Keene almost smiled. Then she opened the notes that had been sent ahead from what she called a referral summary. Her face changed, just a little. Doctors have their own poker faces, but they are not as good as they think. She read aloud carefully. Family reports increased confusion. Unsafe living alone. Medication non-compliance. Resistance to care planning. Memory care evaluation recommended. My stomach tightened. I didn't send that. I know, she said. This appears to be family history, not physician observation. Family history. That sounded harmless. It was not. A stranger could read those words and think I was already halfway gone. I asked, Doctor, do I look like I belong in memory care? She did not answer too fast. I respected that. Based on what I have observed today? No. For the first time since the gift box, I breathed like my lungs belonged to me again. Then she lifted one finger. But your symptoms are real, Mr. Donald. We do not ignore them. We investigate them. I can live with that. Good, because there is a difference between needing help and losing your rights. Bonnie folded her arms. I've been trying to tell him that. Doctor. Keene reviewed the photos of the pill organizer, the schedule, and the old medication list Bonnie had brought in a folder. She did not make accusations. She was careful. Careful people were starting to become my favorite kind. This needs a pharmacist review, she said. And I want fresh labs, a medication reconciliation, and a follow-up where nobody speaks for you unless you ask them to. I nodded. My hands were still tight in my lap. She noticed. Mr. Donald, I am not telling you nothing is wrong. I know. I am telling you the story in this chart is moving faster than the evidence. That sentence settled over me like shade, because that was exactly what had been happening. A version of me had been built on paper. Older, weaker, foggy, unsafe, difficult. And that paper version was moving toward Friday faster than the real me could object. Dr. Keene slid the referral summary across the desk. Before you sign anything, you need to know who benefits if this version of you becomes official. I looked down at the words again. Unsafe, living alone. Medication, non-compliance. Resistance. I had repaired enough systems to know when someone was laying groundwork before flipping a switch. Do I need a lawyer? I asked. Dr. Keene did not hesitate. Yes. Bonnie said, I know one. Of course she did. Bonnie knew a person for everything. Roof leaks, blood pressure cuffs, bad daughters, good attorneys. Before we left, Dr. Keene put one more note in my file. She read it aloud so I could hear it. Patient is alert, oriented, and able to provide coherent personal history. Current information does not support emergency memory placement based solely on family statements. I stared at her. Thank you. She shook her head. Do not thank me for listening to you. That is the minimum. Maybe it should have been, but that day it felt like rescue. On the ride home, Bonnie drove slower than usual. The city moved outside the window. Palm trees, strip malls, traffic lights, people carrying groceries, a man walking a dog that looked more stubborn than he did. Ordinary life. I wanted mine back. When we pulled into my driveway, my phone buzzed. A text from Paige. Dad, please don't make this harder. We're only trying to keep you safe. I stared at it for a long time. Then I looked at the referral summary in my lap. Safe. They kept using that word like a blanket, but it was starting to feel like a rope. Dr. Keene handed me the family notes and said, Before you sign anything, find out who benefits if this version of you becomes official. Bonnie knew a lawyer named Lyle Booker. She described him as quiet, expensive, and allergic to nonsense. That sounded like exactly the kind of man I needed. His office sat in a low brick building near an old shopping plaza in Tampa, between a tax preparer and a place that sold hearing aids. Nothing about it looked dramatic. No marble, no gold letters. Just a wooden door, a small sign, and a waiting room with coffee that tasted like it had survived 3 divorces. Lyle Booker was around 60, thin, gray-haired, and dressed like a man who had never needed a loud tie to make a point. He shook my hand. Then he shook Bonnie's. Then he looked at the blue gift box I carried under one arm. That the famous present? I set it on his desk, if you can call it that. He opened the box and took out the papers one by one. Memory care intake, medication management consent, emergency transfer authorization, durable power of attorney draft, facility deposit authorization. He did not gasp. He did not curse. He simply put on his glasses and started reading with a yellow highlighter in his hand. That made me more nervous than yelling would have. Men like Lyle do not waste emotion on things that already look bad on paper. After a few minutes, I asked, Is it bad? He looked up. Bad is when paperwork lies quietly enough for a busy person to stamp it. Bonnie muttered, Told you he was allergic to nonsense. Lyle tapped the power of attorney draft. Mr. Donald, a durable power of attorney is not evil by itself. Used properly, it can protect someone. Used badly, it can turn a parent into a locked cabinet with a heartbeat. My throat tightened. He turned the pages toward me. Paige is listed as primary agent. Arlo as alternate. Rena is not agent, but she is written into communication preference as care coordinator. What does that mean? It means she may not hold the keys, but she is standing close to the door. He kept reading. This draft gives broad authority over banking, real estate, medical consent, mailing address, insurance matters, digital access, and property transactions. I stared at the page. My duplex? Yes. My house? Yes. My retirement account? Potentially, depending on institution acceptance. I sat back. The room went very quiet. I had come in thinking the nursing home form was the cage. Now I understood it was only the hallway leading to one. Before I tell you what was hidden in that power of attorney draft, let me ask you something. If your own children said you were too confused to live alone, but your heart told you someone was making you look that way, would you stay quiet to keep the family together? Or would you fight to prove your own mind was still yours? Tell me honestly what you would have done. Lyle slid another page forward. This one concerns me. Facility deposit authorization. I had barely noticed it before. There was a reservation request, he said. Not a final payment, from what I can see, but enough to suggest the facility process had moved beyond a family discussion. Bonnie crossed her arms. Friday. Lyle looked at her. What about Friday? That's the transfer date. His face changed. Slightly, but enough. Then we move today. As if the room had heard him, my phone rang. The screen showed Gail Turner. She worked at my local bank. I had known her for years. She used to wave at me through the drive-through window back when my hands still smelled like Freon and copper pipe. I answered. Mr. Donald, Gail said, I'm sorry to bother you, but I flagged something unusual. Lyle held out his hand, asking permission. I put the call on speaker. Gail continued. There was an inquiry connected to your duplex account and a request to update the mailing address for certain financial notices. It was not completed. We still need signed authorization. My chest tightened. Who requested it? I can't disclose everything over the phone, but the caller referenced pending power of attorney documentation. Lyle leaned closer. Ms. Turner, this is Lyle Booker, Elder Law Counsel for Mr. Donald. Please preserve all records connected to that inquiry. Gail did not miss a beat. I already did. That was the first good news I had heard all morning. Then she said something I will never forget. Mr. Donald, someone is trying to make your financial life arrive at a different mailbox. I looked at the gift box, then at the POA, then at the medication consent. It was all one thing. Not care. Access. Lyle ended the call with formal instructions and turned back to me. Here is what we do. First, you do not sign anything from this box. Second, we notify the bank that no POA is valid unless verified directly through me and you. Third, we request the pharmacy records. Fourth, we document suspected elder exploitation. That phrase made me flinch. Elder exploitation. I was 63. I still changed my own air filters. I still knew how to sweat through a Tampa attic and come down laughing. But there I was, sitting in a lawyer's office, listening to a stranger name what my own children may have been doing to me. Bonnie saw my face. Mark, I'm all right. No, she said. You're standing up inside. That's different. Lyle placed the papers back into the box. Not neatly. Evidence does not need to look pretty. I am not saying your children are guilty of every fear in your head, he said, but I am saying this package, this timeline, and these financial attempts are enough to treat the situation as real. I nodded. What about Milo? Lyle paused. The grandson? He warned me. Then we protect him first. We do not put him in the middle. That mattered, because I was angry. God help me, I was angry. But I was not going to save myself by turning a frightened boy into a weapon. Lyle took out a folder and wrote my name across the tab. Mark Donald, Elder Protection Review. Seeing my name there made my stomach turn, but it also steadied me. For days, other people had been writing a version of me: unsafe, confused, non-compliant, declining. Now my own file had begun. Lyle pushed the POA draft back toward me and said, "Mark, this paper does not protect you. It protects access to you." Lyle Booker did not believe in dramatic meetings. He believed in paper. So the next morning, he put my life on a whiteboard. Not the whole thing, of course. You cannot fit a man's life between two dry erase markers. But he wrote down the parts my children had tried to turn into a case against me. Dizzy after dinner. Fell asleep in chair. Faucet left running. Wrong line on check. Pill schedule changed. Memory care form prepared. Power of attorney drafted. Transfer date set. Then he drew a line under it and wrote one word: timeline. Bonnie sat beside me with her arms folded. Dr. Mara Keene joined by video from her office. Quincy Bell, the pharmacist, was on speakerphone. I sat there with my hands around a paper cup of coffee that had gone cold before I drank it. Lyle looked at me. "Mark, today is not about proving your children are monsters." "I know." "It is about proving the record is not allowed to lie faster than you can speak." That sentence steadied me. Dr. Keene began. "Based on my evaluation, I cannot support a claim that Mr. Donald lacks capacity to manage his basic affairs." I closed my eyes. Only for a second. A man should not have to feel grateful for being told he still owns his own mind. But I did. Dr. Keene continued. "His symptoms are real. They should be evaluated. But serious symptoms are not the same as dementia, and they are certainly not permission to remove a person's rights." Bonnie gave a hard little nod. "That ought to be printed on every family group chat in America." Quincy cleared his throat on the phone. "I reviewed the pickup pattern. Mr. Donald historically picked up his own prescriptions. Recently, there were caregiver pickups. There was also a request tied to family caregiver access." Lyle asked, "Were those requests made by Mr. Donald?" "I cannot say that from the records I have," Quincy said carefully, "but they do not match his previous pattern. One careful words, professional words. Still, they moved the room. Because when a pattern changes right before a memory care form appears, it stops looking like coincidence." Bonnie laid her printed photos on the table. The pill organizer, the schedule, the marks that said missed, the old medication list. She tapped the handwriting. "This is not Mark's writing." Lyle wrote another line on the board. "Medication story created before independent evaluation." That phrase hit me harder than I expected. Story. That was what it had become. Not health, not care, a story. And in that story, I was already declining. I was already unsafe. I was already too foggy to argue. Dr. Keene said, "What concerns me is that the family reported history appears more advanced than the evidence supports." Lyle turned to me. "Translation?" I looked at the whiteboard. "They wrote the ending before the facts caught up." Nobody corrected me. That scared me more than if they had. My phone buzzed then. Paige. I looked at Lyle. He nodded toward the phone but raised one finger. "Speaker," I answered. "Dad?" Paige said, her voice soft and tired. "Why are you doing this?" "Doing what?" "Calling doctors, calling lawyers. Arlo says you're making accusations now. I'm asking questions. That's what worries us." There it was. Questions had become symptoms. I said nothing. Paige filled the silence. "You've been different. You're suspicious. You're acting like everyone is against you." Lyle wrote on the board. "Resistance equals symptom." Paige kept going. "We are trying to help you before something terrible happens." "Paige," I said, "what happens Friday?" She went quiet. Too quiet. Then Arlo's voice came on, closer to the phone. "You're making this harder than it has to be." "Harder for who?" He exhaled sharply. "For everybody." Rena spoke next, calmer, smoother. "Mark, refusing care can sometimes be part of decline. Insight changes. That is why families have to step in." Bonnie's eyes narrowed. Lyle underlined what he had just written. Resistance equals symptom. That was the trap. If I agreed, they were right. If I refused, they were still right. I could feel anger rising in me, hot and old. But Lyle shook his head once. Not yet. So I kept my voice even. Rena, who told the facility I missed doses? Silence. Then Rena said, we discussed concerns. That is not an answer. Paige came back. Dad, please don't interrogate us. I am trying to find out why strangers know things about me I never said. Arlo snapped, because you don't remember saying them. The room went still. There it was. The whole machine in one sentence. If I denied it, denial became proof. If I remembered differently, memory became suspect. If I asked for evidence, suspicion became paranoia. I looked at Lyle. He wrote one more word. Document. Then he spoke for the first time. This is Lyle Booker, counsel for Mr. Donald. All further communication about documents, facility placement, or alleged incapacity should come through my office. Paige gasped softly. Dad, you got a lawyer? I said, you got me a transfer date. Nobody spoke. Then the call ended. Not goodbye, just gone. I sat back and looked at the whiteboard. For a moment I felt hollow, not weak, hollow. The people I had raised were now speaking about me like a problem to be managed, and every sentence they used had been chosen to sound like love. Dr. Keene's voice came through the speaker. Mr. Donald, I want you to hear this clearly. Seeking legal advice, requesting medical review, and asking for records are not signs of decline. I nodded, but my throat was tight. Bonnie reached over and squeezed my wrist. You're surrounded, she said softly. I looked at her. That's supposed to comfort me? No, she said. It's supposed to remind you to stop standing in the middle of the circle. That one almost made me smile. Almost. Lyle turned back to the board. Here is what we know. The memory care packet was prepared before an independent evaluation. The medication narrative was written before pharmacy reconciliation. A power of attorney was drafted before you consented. A transfer date was set before you agreed. He capped the marker. That is not care moving carefully. That is paperwork running ahead of the person. I stared at the blue gift box on the side table. The white ribbon was still tied around it. It looked harmless again. That made me hate it more. Dr. Keene said she would send a preliminary report stating that emergency memory placement was not supported by her observation. Quincy agreed to prepare formal pickup history for my own records. Bonnie agreed to help preserve the photos and keep copies. Lyle opened a new folder. From now on, he said, every conversation is documented. I asked, you think they'll stop? No. He did not soften it. People who start by writing over your voice usually do not stop because you ask politely. I looked at the whiteboard again. There was my life, reduced to boxes and arrows. But for the first time, the arrows did not all point toward Friday. They pointed back. Back to the pillbox. Back to the form. Back to who had written what. Back to who had benefited. The false decline had started as a whisper in my own head. Maybe you are slipping, Mark. Maybe they are right. Maybe you are the last one to know. But now, on that whiteboard, the whisper had competition. Facts, dates, records, witnesses. I was not healed. I was not safe yet. But I was no longer alone inside their story. Lyle looked at the timeline and said, the question is no longer whether your children think you're declining. The question is, who helped make it look that way? Friday became a sound in my house. Not a day. A sound. It was in the refrigerator hum, in the click of the ceiling fan, in the little buzz my phone made every time one of my children sent another message pretending urgency was love. Paige texted first. Dad, the room won't stay open forever. Please don't make this harder. I stared at that sentence for a long time. The room, not my room, not my house, not my life. The room. Like I was already furniture being moved into storage. Arlo came by that afternoon without calling. He knocked once, then opened the door like sons do when they forget a house still belongs to the father who paid for it. I was at the kitchen table with coffee I did not want and the blue gift box sitting closed beside me. He looked at it and shook his head. "You still keeping that thing out?" "Yes." "That's healthy." "No," I said. "It's useful." He walked around my kitchen, restless, angry, trying not to look worried. Arlo had always been like that. Even as a boy, fear came out of him wearing a fight. "You got lawyers involved," he said. "You got forms involved. We were trying to protect you." "From what?" "From yourself." I looked at him. That was the cleanest insult he had offered all week. He leaned on the counter. "Dad, you're not seeing the whole picture." "I'm seeing enough." "No, you're not. Paige is drowning." "I'm drowning. Insurance is through the roof, taxes don't stop, contractors don't pay on time, and you're sitting on property you don't even use." There it was. The money finally stepped out from behind care. "My duplex pays part of my retirement," I said. "It could save the family." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because desperate people always rename what they want. "You always said everything would be ours one day," Arlo said. "One day is not today." He slammed his hand on the counter. "You're going to ruin everything just to prove you're still in charge." I stood slowly. My knees popped. His eyes went to them. I saw it. That little flash of proof he thought he had found. Old, weak, declining. I said, "I am still in charge because I am still alive." He looked away. For a second, I thought shame might reach him. Then his phone buzzed. He checked it, and the doorbell camera on my kitchen tablet lit up at the same moment with a motion alert from my porch. Rena's car. She was outside, but she did not come in. Arlo typed something back. "Rena says you're refusing care again." "I'm refusing a cage. It's not a cage." "Then why did you pick the room before you asked me?" He had no answer. That scared me more than a lie would have. After he left, I sat in the quiet and replayed the porch footage. Not because I expected anything, because Lyle had told me to record patterns. The camera caught Arlo stepping outside, Rena lowering her window, and his voice sharper than he meant it to be. "Lyle knows too much." Rena answered, low but clear enough. "Then Friday matters more." I froze. The clip kept playing. Arlo said, "Milo won't talk." Rena said, "He better not. If he scares your father, they'll say we caused it." Then the car pulled away. I saved the clip. My hands were steady now. That worried me. Sometimes fear shakes you. Sometimes it makes you very still. An hour later, my phone rang from a number I did not know. A woman's voice came through, bright and practiced. "Mr. Donald, this is Bethany Voss from Bayshore Haven Memory Care. I wanted to confirm transportation details for your transition on Friday." The room narrowed. "My what?" A pause. "Your transition, sir. Your family indicated the move-in evaluation should happen before the weekend." "I never agreed to move in." Another pause. This one longer. "I'm sorry. We were told you had been resistant, but that the plan was approved by family contacts." "Who told you that?" "I mostly spoke with your daughter regarding financial coordination, and your daughter-in-law provided care notes." Care notes. Those words felt dirty now. Bethany lowered her voice. "Mr. Donald, your family said the transition had to happen before you changed your mind again." I closed my eyes. Not to think. To keep from shouting at a stranger who was only reading the story somebody else had handed her. "Ms. Voss," I said, "please send every document connected to my name to my attorney, Lyle Booker. Do not call my children again about my care without written authorization from me." She became very careful after that. People do when the word attorney enters the room. When the call ended, I forwarded the number to Lyle. Then I called Bonnie. She came over with a casserole I did not ask for, and a face that said she knew I would not eat unless threatened. "You look like a man who found another snake under the porch," she said. "Bethany Voss." Bonnie's mouth tightened. "The facility?" "They scheduled transportation." She set the casserole down harder than necessary. Of course they did. I almost smiled. Bonnie's anger was becoming one of the only things in my life that felt clean. Then a voice message arrived from Milo. I knew it was him before I played it because children send fear differently. No punctuation, no greeting, just breath. Grandpa, I'm sorry. Dad said I shouldn't scare you because it'll make you worse, but I heard them talking. They said if you're foggy at the evaluation, they won't question the form. The message ended with a little sniffle. I sat down. Bonnie put a hand over her mouth. I played it once more. Then I saved it, not to use my grandson, to protect the truth he had risked giving me. A little later, another saved doorbell clip came in from the porch, recorded before Arlo left. This time Paige was on speaker. Her voice was shaking. I don't like this anymore, Arlo said. Then you should have thought of that before the deposit. Rena said, once he's settled, he won't remember being angry. We just have to get through the first week. The kitchen disappeared for a moment. I do not mean I fainted. I mean something inside me stepped out of the room because staying there hurt too much. I could handle greed. I could handle fear. I could even handle my children thinking they knew better than me. But that sentence, once he's settled, he won't remember being angry. They were not only planning to move my body, they were counting on losing my outrage. They were imagining a version of me alive enough to occupy a bed, but not clear enough to accuse them. Bonnie whispered, Mark. I looked at the blue gift box, the white ribbon, the papers inside. The little lie dressed up as love. They were not waiting for me to die, I said. They were trying to make me disappear while I was still breathing. Bonnie's eyes filled, but she did not comfort me. She knew better. Some moments do not need comfort. They need action. I opened the box and started placing everything inside. The memory care form, the medication consent, the POA draft, photos of the pill organizer, the pharmacy notes, the bank alert, Milo's note, the doorbell clips saved on a drive, the facility number. The blue ribbon stayed tied around the lid. Let it look pretty. Let it show exactly how ugly a beautiful package could be. Then I called Lyle Booker. He answered on the second ring. I was about to call you. Friday is real, I said. I know. The facility called. I know that too. Bethany sent documents. I looked at the box. I'm done being polite. There was a pause. Then Lyle said, Good. Then we stop reacting and start recording. I put the gift box back on my kitchen table, filled it with every paper they thought would bury me, and told Lyle Booker, I'm done being polite. Lyle Booker called it a timeline. I called it a map of betrayal. The next morning, I sat in his office with the blue gift box on the table between us. It looked almost harmless again. That was what bothered me most. A white ribbon, a neat lid, a pretty lie. Bonnie sat beside me with a folder thick enough to make the table complain. Lyle had already made copies of everything, labeled in order, clipped by date. He did not rush. Mark, he said, a family can explain away one strange paper. They cannot explain away a timeline. Then he opened the box. Memory care form, medication consent, emergency transfer authorization, power of attorney draft, bank alert, pharmacy notes, Milo's message, doorbell clips. Each item came out like a bone from something buried. The first call was to Quincy Bell at the pharmacy. Lyle put him on speaker after confirming permission. Quincy sounded careful, not scared. Careful, that is different. Mr. Donald, he said, I reviewed the pickup history you requested. I held my breath without meaning to. For years, your pattern was consistent. You picked up your own prescriptions, usually around the same time of month. Recently, several pickups were recorded under caregiver pickup. Bonnie closed her eyes. Lyle asked, were those initiated by Mr. Donald? I can't determine intent from a pharmacy counter, Quincy said. But I can say the pattern changed. There were also requests connected to family caregiver access and contact updates. Any notes about missed doses? Yes, there were family-provided concerns entered into the account. Family provided. That phrase was starting to feel like a knife with a polite handle. I asked, "Did I ever tell you I was missing doses?" "No, sir," Quincy said. "Not in the notes I reviewed." Bonnie's face had gone pale again, not because she was surprised, because confirmation is sometimes worse than suspicion. Quincy added, "I can't accuse anyone, but the record does not look like a man quietly managing everything the way he had for years." When the call ended, Lyle wrote on his pad, "Medication narrative changed before medical proof." Then came Dr. Mara Keene's report. She had sent it over that morning. Lyle read the key part aloud. "Mr. Donald is alert, oriented, and able to provide coherent personal and financial history. Current evaluation does not support emergency memory placement based solely on family statements." I looked down. A grown man should not feel rescued by a sentence, but I did. Then Lyle kept reading. "Medication reconciliation recommended. Current symptom pattern requires investigation and should not be used as sole basis for involuntary or pressured facility placement." Bonnie whispered, "Good." Just one word, but it had weight. The third call was to Bethany Voss at Bayshore Haven Memory Care. Lyle kept his voice calm. "Ms. Voss, I represent Mark Donald. We need confirmation of who provided the admission information." Bethany sounded nervous now. I understood the family was coordinating on his behalf. "Which family members?" "The daughter handled most of the financial information. The daughter-in-law sent care notes and medication concerns." Paige, Rena, there they were, in separate lanes on the same road. Lyle asked, "Were you told Mr. Donald consented to the Friday transition?" A pause. "We were told he had been resistant, but that family believed the transition needed to happen before he changed his mind again." My hands tightened. Changed his mind again, as if my mind belonged to them first, and I was the one interfering. Bethany continued, quieter. "I'm sorry, I did not realize there was a dispute." Lyle said, "There is now a documented dispute. No transportation, placement, medication management, or intake process proceeds without written authorization from Mr. Donald directly or from this office." "Yes, sir." When the call ended, the room felt colder. Lyle wrote, "Facility timeline active before consent." Then Bonnie laid Milo's note on the table. She did it gently, like it was not paper, but a frightened child's hand. I could not look at it for long. "Grandpa, they said if you get confused again, they can make you sign after." Under it, Aunt Paige said the house has to be protected before Friday. I said, "I don't want him dragged into this." "He won't be," Lyle said. "We protect the child first. We do not put him in the middle, but we preserve what he already risked to tell you." That mattered, because by then, anger was sitting in my chest like a live wire. I wanted to storm into Arlo's house. I wanted to ask Paige when exactly I stopped being her father and became an obstacle with property. I wanted to look Rena in the eye and ask how many soft medical words it took before a lie started sounding like care. But Lyle was right. You do not fight a paper trap with shouting. You fight it with better paper. The bank alert came next. Gail Turner had sent a written summary, attempted mailing address update, inquiry about the duplex account, mention of pending power of attorney, no completed transfer, no authorized change, preserved records. Lyle placed that document beside the POA draft. Then he drew the connection with his finger. Memory care placement makes you look dependent. Medication management supports that story. POA gives access. Address change controls information. Duplex inquiry suggests motive. He looked at me. This is not one bad decision. This is a pipeline. Pipeline. That word hit me hard. I had spent my life fixing systems that moved air through walls. I understood pipelines. Once pressure entered one end, something came out the other. And in this pipeline, what came out was me, smaller, quieter, easier to sign around. I stared at the blue box. "They didn't need me dead," I said. Lyle did not interrupt. "They only needed me documented as helpless." Bonnie reached for my hand. This time, I let her take it. For a while, nobody spoke. Then Lyle closed the folder. "Tomorrow morning, I want your children in this office." My stomach tightened. "And if they don't come?" "They will. I will tell them the memory care process has legal issues requiring immediate clarification. People who rely on paperwork usually show up when paperwork threatens them." Bonnie made a sound that was almost a laugh. "What about Adult Protective Services?" I asked. "I am preparing the report. We do this carefully. We do not accuse beyond the evidence. We report suspected exploitation, suspected medication interference, attempted unauthorized authority, and pressured placement." Suspected. That word protected the truth from becoming recklessness. I was learning. Justice had a grammar. Lyle looked at the gift box. "Bring that tomorrow." "The box?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because they gave it meaning first. Tomorrow, you do." I looked at the ribbon. A pretty little thing. White, clean, almost innocent. I thought about throwing it away. Then I thought better of it. Some traps should be preserved exactly as they were built. Lyle closed the folder and said, "Tomorrow, we put the gift box back on the table. This time, they don't get to decide what it means." The next morning, I carried the blue gift box into Lyle Booker's office. Same ribbon, same neat corners, same lie. Only this time, it was not sitting in my kitchen pretending to be love. It was sitting on a lawyer's table, surrounded by people who knew how to read what paper was really trying to do. Paige arrived first. She looked tired, but polished. That was Paige's way. Even panic had to be presentable. Arlo came in behind her with his jaw tight and his hands in his pockets. Rena was last. Calm. Too calm. She looked at the box and then at me, not scared, calculating. Lyle sat at the head of the table with a folder open in front of him. Bonnie was beside me. An elder protection representative sat near the wall, quiet, taking notes. Milo was not in the room. I made sure of that. He was with Bonnie's sister in the waiting area, eating crackers and drawing something on a yellow legal pad. A child should not have to watch adults explain why they used him as silence. Arlo looked at the box and gave a short laugh. "You brought the gift? Seriously?" "Yes," I said. "I thought we should all look at what care looks like when it comes wrapped." Nobody laughed after that. Lyle spoke first. "This meeting is not a trial. No one is being convicted in this room. We are here to clarify documents, stop unauthorized actions, preserve records, and address suspected elder exploitation." Paige flinched at that phrase. Arlo leaned forward. "Elder exploitation? He's 63. Lyle looked at him. "Exploitation does not wait for a birthday." Rena folded her hands. "We were trying to help him. Mark has been confused. He has had episodes. Families step in every day." Lyle nodded once. "Then we will compare concern with conduct." That sentence changed the air. He opened the gift box. First came the memory care intake form. My name, my address, my date of birth. The Friday transfer date. Lyle turned it toward them. "Who authorized this?" Paige looked down. "I made the initial call. Did your father consent?" I thought he would understand once we explained. "That is not consent." Arlo snapped. "We were reserving a spot, that's all." I looked at him. "You reserved a room for me like I was furniture you might need moved." His face reddened. Next came the medication management consent. Rena's eyes finally shifted. Lyle asked, "Why was medication control discussed before an independent evaluation?" Rena answered carefully, "Because medication issues were part of the concern." Bonnie placed the photographs on the table. The pill organizer, the schedule, the old medication list, the handwriting. "Then explain why the schedule did not match his prior medication list," Bonnie said, "and why missed doses were being reported before Mark ever reported missing them." Rena's lips pressed together. "I was trying to organize things," Bonnie's voice sharpened. "Organizing is putting socks in drawers. This was creating a medical story." Paige started crying. "I didn't know it was like that." I turned to her. "You did not know? Or you did not ask because the answer would slow you down?" She covered her mouth. No answer. Then Lyle pulled out the POA draft. He did not raise his voice. That made it worse. This document would have given Paige broad authority over banking, real estate, insurance, mailing address, medical consent, and property transactions. Arlo was listed as alternate. Arlo said, "Dad always said everything would be ours one day." "One day," I said, "is not the same as while I am still breathing." He looked away. Good. Shame had finally found a chair. Lyle placed the bank alert beside the POA. Attempted mailing address update. Inquiry related to the duplex account. Mention of pending power of attorney. Paige whispered, "The market is terrible. Insurance is killing everyone. I thought if we waited too long, he might lose everything." I looked at my daughter. "You were afraid of losing property, so you tried to take the person out of the way." Her tears fell harder. "I told myself I was protecting you, too." Concern becomes abuse the moment it needs a lie to keep moving. That line stopped her. Even Arlo, even Rena. Then came the pharmacy pickup record. Lyle summarized it cleanly. No accusations beyond the evidence, caregiver pickup pattern, family-provided concerns, contact update request, medication reconciliation recommended. Doctor. Mara Keene's report followed. Alert, oriented, coherent. No support for emergency memory placement based only on family statements. Rena looked at the report like it had betrayed her. Maybe it had. Truth feels like betrayal to people who were counting on confusion. Finally, Lyle placed the facility statement on the table. Bethany Voss's words, typed and signed. Family-indicated transition should happen before Mr. Donald changed his mind again. The room went completely still. I looked at Paige, then Arlo, then Rena. "Changed my mind again," I said. "Funny thing, nobody asked my mind the first time." Rena spoke softly. "Mark, this has gotten out of hand." "No," I said. "It got out of hand when my life became paperwork I was not allowed to read." The elder protection representative finally spoke. "Mr. Donald, based on what has been presented, a report will be opened. That does not determine final findings today. It does preserve the matter for review." Arlo sat back like the chair had lost strength. Paige whispered, "A report?" "Yes," I said. "Not because I want to destroy you, because I will not let my children disappear me." Rena asked for her own attorney after that. Lyle told her she had that right. I respected him for saying it. Justice that denies rights is only revenge wearing a better suit. Then I gave my terms. No POA from that box would be used. No facility transfer would move forward. No one would touch my medication, pharmacy access, bank accounts, mail, property documents, or medical contacts without written authorization from me and my counsel. Any reservation fees or paperwork costs charged through my accounts would be returned. The bank would keep the fraud alert. The pharmacy would restrict pickup. Milo would not be punished, questioned, threatened, or blamed for telling me the truth. At that, Paige looked up. Her voice broke. "He told you?" "He saved me." Arlo closed his eyes. For the first time, he looked less angry than ashamed. I opened the gift box one last time and took out the white ribbon. I laid it flat on the table. "This was not a present," I said. "It was a rehearsal for my disappearance." Nobody spoke. That was enough. I stood slowly. Bonnie stood with me. Lyle gathered the papers, not like a lawyer cleaning up a meeting, but like a man preserving the shape of a crime before anyone could smooth the edges. As I reached the door, Paige said, "Dad, are we done?" I turned back. "No," I said, "but you are done making decisions for me." I left the white ribbon on Lyle Booker's table and walked out knowing my children were still alive in my life, but they no longer had keys to it. The report did not fix my family overnight. Nothing honest works that fast. The memory care transfer was canceled before Friday. The facility closed my file pending review. My bank placed extra verification on every account, and Gail Turner made sure no address, loan inquiry, or property notice could move without my direct approval. The pharmacy changed my pickup rules. Only I could collect my prescriptions, unless I named someone in writing. The power of attorney draft from the gift box was marked unauthorized and unsigned. It became exactly what it should have been from the beginning: paper with no power. Paige returned the reservation fees. Arlo paid back the charges tied to the paperwork. Rena had to answer questions about the medication notes and caregiver access. No one was dragged away in handcuffs that day. Life is rarely that clean. But an investigation was opened, and for the first time in weeks, my children were not explaining me. They were explaining themselves. That felt different. Not happy, different. Paige wrote me a long letter. She admitted she was scared about money, the market, insurance, and the future. She said she told herself she was protecting me too. I read the letter twice. Then I put it in a drawer. Some apologies need time to become more than handwriting. Arlo called once. He did not make a speech. He just said, "I said something I can't take back." I sat on my porch for a while before answering. "No," I told him. "You can't. But you can spend the rest of your life not becoming the man who meant it." He cried then, quietly. I let him. Rena's part took longer. The records around the medication notes and caregiver access had to be reviewed carefully. I did not need revenge dressed up as panic. If she crossed lines, the record would show it. If she did not, the record would show that too. Truth does not become stronger because we rush it. Milo came over 2 Sundays later. He stood in my garage, holding his little backpack with both hands. "I'm sorry," he said. That nearly broke me. For what? For telling. I knelt down as far as my knees allowed. "You did not break the family, son. You broke the silence. Those are not the same thing." He wiped his face with his sleeve. "Are you still mad?" "Yes," I said. "But I remember why. That means I am still here." He smiled a little. So did I. Later, I set up a protected education account for him, one his parents could not touch. Not as payment, not as a reward, as a promise. A child who tells the truth should not have to pay for adult fear. The Donald Elder Dignity Fund began in a small room behind a community center in Tampa. Nothing fancy: folding chairs, bad coffee, a donated printer that jammed when it felt dramatic. But people came: older parents, widows, neighbors, caregivers who wanted to do things right. We taught them to ask for second opinions before memory care placement. We taught them to read power of attorney forms slowly. We helped them check pharmacy pickup permissions. We explained the difference between help and control. Bonnie taught medication safety. Lyle explained elder law without making people feel stupid. Dr. Mara Keene spoke about capacity, dignity, and why family concerns should never outrun medical evidence. Quincy Bell helped create a pharmacy checklist. And in a small frame on the front table, I placed the white ribbon from that gift box. Under it, I wrote, "Care protects a voice. Control replaces it." That ribbon used to make my stomach turn. Now it reminds me. A trap can become a warning sign if you refuse to hide it. I am still 63. I still forget where I put my pliers. I still argue with my ceiling fan. I still need help sometimes. But needing help is not the same as surrendering your voice. That is the lesson I carried out of all of this. Family care should never require a lie. Protection should never need secret paperwork. And love should never make a person weaker just to make them easier to manage. The revenge was not that my children got scared. The revenge was that they could never again call control care in a room where my voice was missing. Thank you for spending this time with me today and for listening to my story all the way through. Please tell me in the comments where you are watching from and what time it is where you live right now. If this story moved you even a little, please don't forget to subscribe to Final Act Revenge. Another story is waiting for you on your screen right now. YouTube believes you may enjoy it.